Dying Light 2, a game haunted by a disastrous development cycle, is finally almost here. And boy oh boy is it giving off Cyberpunk 2077 vibes. In the latest news from Techland, leaked retail copies of the game are out, and yet they are asking those who have it to not play it a few days early. Why? Well, because apparently the game just wasn't ready yet, and has enough problems that it shouldn't be played without the pre-release day patch. What the hell? We're going to talk about what in the world is happening here, and why perhaps it might be worth waiting for launch day reviews before you buy. And so, from Adrian's Corner, I am Adrian, and our gaming news episode starts now. So, before you sink your hard-earned dollars into Techland's Dying Light 2, a word of caution. You see, with all this weird news coming out about the game, I'm getting a serious Cyberpunk 2077 vibes. It's coming in hard and fast with all this pre-release news. You see, apparently some retail copies of the game are already out in the public hands. However, Techland has made a plea, begging those who have already gotten the game early to just hold off from loading it up until the game goes officially live. You see, Dying Light 2 is scheduled to go live on February 4th, but despite the release date being so close, developer Techland made a post on Twitter saying that while they do appreciate the players' enthusiasm to start playing, they said that we kindly ask you to wait until February 4th, as by that time you'll also get access to all improvements and fixes that we've implemented within the last couple of weeks and will introduce with the Day 1 patch. That's the way to experience Dying Light 2 the way it's meant to be played.
What? Are you crazy?
Now, essentially here, Techland is admitting that the game in its current state shouldn't yet be seen by its fan base, and that apparently the bugs are bad enough to be a detriment to user experiences in its current form. Now, it's not clear how widespread the leaked copies of the games are or on what platforms they've been leaked to, although at first glance, images leaked on Reddit were, initially at least, for console editions, which isn't that unexpected considering that consoles still dominate the face of the retail gaming market compared to the PC, where digital distribution is king. As for the how and why it happened, Techland hasn't publicly commented at the time of filming for this episode. In any case though, Techland's plea that players show self-control and wait to play until launch day is prompting more than just a few raised eyebrows. For example, how do you expect reviewers and/or influencers to be able to review the game and give a fair report on the state of the game pre-launch if it wasn't even yet ready for primetime viewing? Now, on its own, this story alone should raise a lot of red flags about the game's upcoming launch. But then you add this story to a few weeks ago where Techland promised 5 years of updates for Dying Light 2. And while the idea of having continual content for the foreseeable future for a game you like is not necessarily a bad thing, it does raise concerns that the initial content in the game could be problematic. You see, a game should be able to stand on its own at launch, and if you are relying on players to find value in your game because of future content that will eventually come out, you have a problem on your hands. We have seen time and time again where AAA titles of the past have done this exact thing and were trash at launch, and only with time got better. A classic example of this would have been Civilization 6. Which was garbage at launch and didn't really get much better despite a lot of DLC that came out over the course of the next few years. And this really is not fair to the people who invest money into the content provided at launch. I mean, who is to say you'll even want to still be playing a game 5 months after launch, let alone 5 years? In any case, this post about 5 years of future content was also eyebrow-raising for another reason. You see, Techland had already claimed that the game will have up to 500 hours of content for completionists to take on. Which then begs the question, if you have 500 hours of content for your completionists to take on, but you're already talking about 5 years of additional DLC, what kind of content are we talking about? Is this fluff? Is it actually entertaining? I mean, I'm getting PTSD thinking about Shadows of the Tomb Raider. You see, as someone who regularly completes all side quests whenever I can, I found myself unable to keep doing the endless, boring tasks that Tomb Raider kept shoving down my throat in every zone I went to. And eventually, it caused me to quit the game out of sheer boredom. I mean, I didn't even finish the campaign. It was that bad. Which was hugely disappointing for me, as the previous titles in the reboot of Tomb Raider were smart and engaging titles. But anyway, back to Dying Light 2. While these red flags were already bad enough, then you add to this internal turmoil and development hell that Techland has been embroiled in. This despite publicly denying that they were having troubles, or at least that it should not be classified as development hell. You see, Dying Light 2 has been in development for quite a number of years now. The game was first announced back in 2018, and after being shown at E3 back in 2019, had almost completely vanished from the public eye from that point forward. And while all this was going on, Techland also had some internal turmoil during its development of Dying Light 2, including fights over creative control and sexual assault allegations, which led to the narrative director of the game being ousted from the company, and the game being delayed. And more recently, several anonymous employees accused CEO Paweł Marchuka of fostering a hostile work environment using homophobic slurs to refer to employees' work. All of this culminating into the idea and theory that the game was indeed languishing in development hell, which then led Techland's official Twitter account back on March 17th of 2021 to respond to these claims by saying that their game didn't fall under this definition because, according to them, development hell requires a game to not actually be making any development progress, and that Dying Light 2 had been moving forward. Now, while they were candid in their series of tweets by admitting that they had announced the game a bit too early into development, which according to them was the real reason the game was taking so long to come out, their public stance, however, still didn't match up with the previous leaks at the developer studio about serious issues cropping up involving disagreements over story arc and gameplay, with mismanagement being blamed as the cause, with of course Techland denying that anything was amiss. And yet, only a few short months later, Dying Light 2, which was set to release on December 7th of 2021, got pushed back yet again by a couple of months to here on February 4th of this year. The reason given by CEO Paweł Marchuka was that the team needed more time to polish and optimize the game, saying that the team is steadily progressing with the production and the game is nearing the finish line. The game is complete and we are currently playtesting it. It is by far the biggest and most ambitious project we've ever done. Unfortunately, we've realized for us to bring the game to the level we envision, we need more time to polish and optimize it. We are sorry to keep you all waiting a little longer, but we want the game to meet your highest expectations on release, and we don't want to compromise on this. And so here we are with the game about to finally release. We're all going to soon find out what sort of state the game really is in. And as someone who has played and enjoyed the original, with the caveat of a story marred by impossibly stupid decisions the player character is forced to make because the story script said so, Dying Light was a bit of a train wreck at times, and that is always stuck in the back of my mind when preparing for this latest game from Techland. My expectations aren't exactly high here on this game. I'm hopeful, but I'm not going to get my hopes up. And I will be picking it up for review purposes for this channel. So at the very least, you'll hear back from me on how it all turns out. Here's to hoping it's not a complete disaster. And with that, my friends, our episode is coming to a close once more. As always, thank you so much for being with me here today. From Adrian's Corner, I am Adrian, and I will see you all next time.